Once again, welcome everyone and namaste for this special session of our insightful conversations on the topic that is relevant for all of us aspiring on the path of integral yoga. And the topic is work as sadhana. This series of conversations has been an important feature in our monthly online journal Renaissance. And this month's issue has the theme work and yoga as as a part of our year-long series, All Life is Yoga. And in this series of insightful conversations, we've been generally featuring a pre-recorded conversation with an invited guest, someone who we find in his own way, in their own specific area of work, has been creatively expressing the eternal spirit of India in newer forms, in newer ways. But this time we decided to do a live session, especially since this topic is really of a much wider interest, especially to the aspirants on the path of integral yoga. And our guest for this session is Shri Arul Dev, whom we will be introducing in just a minute. But before that, I just want to take this moment to acknowledge that today being Gita Jayanti, this is indeed a blessing that we are discussing today a topic concerning yoga of works. Shri Aurobindo has said about Bhagavad Gita as that this is the greatest gospel given to human race and the most perfect system of karma yoga known to man in the past. And today, with this sincere intention to explore how one may live this timeless teaching in today's context, we have an opportunity to interact with someone who I find brings an interesting synthesis of long experience in modern organizational and business contexts, and a deep grounding in inner work for one's psychic and spiritual growth. So in so many ways, the timing for our session could not have been more perfect. Now, I wish everyone the best on this auspicious day of Gita Jayanti, and I request and invite my colleague Ram to introduce our guest, Arul Dev. Ram, all yours, please.
Hi everyone, welcome to this event. So it's a privilege for me to introduce Arul Dev because he's one of my important mentors in life. So it's a great opportunity for me to introduce him to all of you. So Arul Dev is the founder CEO of People First Consultants in the field of talent hiring, coaching, integral education and leadership development for 27 years. So across his works, he coaches and guides people to discover true purpose, fulfill potentials, nurture inner evolution, and augment creative manifestation. And he is a key facilitator of the coaching with depth programs and offerings. And he has also authored 2 books, Into Great Depth of Your Being, and The Flame Within. He also anchors workshops like Beyond Schooling, New Creation, Creative Excellence, Love of Ideas, Sadhana, Substance of Our Body, and many more. And he is basically an engineer from BITS Pilani and found his resonant calling to be a trainer, human resources consultant, and entrepreneur, and has been walking his path in this direction. His hobby is doing a deep research on body, breath, and evolution. And he facilitates residential retreats on vision, strategy, and culture for leaders, and for individuals, substance for body and harmony. So I take this opportunity to welcome Arul Dev for a beautiful session on this day on the topic work as sadhana. Welcome Arul Dev. Welcome everyone again. And over to Beluji to start this conversation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ram. So what we thought we'll do is that we will start off with a few questions that we would like to hear Arul's perspective on. And as he finishes his response, other participants, if they have some insight or some questions that come to their mind, please feel free to just unmute yourself or raise your hand in some way, I guess, through the online system. So we'll acknowledge you and invite you to be a part of the conversation. So, all right. Okay. So let me just start off with the very first question, Arul. As an entrepreneur, as an HR professional, how do you, since you kind of interact so much with other individuals, you work with teams, small teams, big teams, how do you stay in your own poise, in your own self, while also interacting so much externally with, how does that inner outer harmony that you continue to be in as part of taking work as sadhana?
Yeah, thank you, Velu and Ram. Well, I answer that question. This is just going to be my sharing, simple ways that I lead my life. One thing I want to share right now is that today, like as of now, when I enter work into my office, I'm actually entering to do my sadhana. Okay, now those who follow my work would be aware that I also run a recruitment firm where I'm actually involved. I do the schedulings and training and stuff like that, and a bunch of other things. So while all of these have deliverables and goals and recruitment timelines are quite stiff, I am actually entering to do my sadhana. And this is the biggest breakthrough that I would like to share. Okay, and that's an answer to that question. So just to give you a little bit of a background, people who know me from school know me as a bookworm. When I went to college, I practically suffered in the first year. I was ragged not for 2 months, as it's officially allowed at that time. I was ragged for 4 years because I was always the catch of any, mostly the boys who wanted to have a good fun time. And here's this, what they call palam or fruit in Tamil. I used to be the, football of most of the people. But something happened to me, during the second and third year. I went through a huge frustration, and thus I found my calling right in my 4th year of college. So that's when I jumped as an entrepreneur 6 months after my college. I was very, very clear on what my life is going to be, and that I think is just a blessing that landed on my shoulders. So in my initial phases, I found doing business a little bit tough because of the nature of mine. I hardly interact much with people. But here I'm running a business. I'm a paka introvert in that sense of it. But I've managed ways, to interact with the world. And even for 27 years, I've been in simple ways doing one thing or the other. In those times, it used to be outside the work. It used to be even watching a movie, for example, at that time, just to settle down. But later on, as I moved forward, I started a practice or the other. For 3 years, I did a practice, like, for example, watching the natural breath, which means I learned it out of a workshop, which was there for 2 days. And for 3 years, I did it, morning 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Throughout the day, a few seconds here and there, few seconds here and there. Today, much of the body work that I'm learning from Mother's Agenda and other ways, not that high, but just simple to my level, I do it alongside work, and it gives me greater intuition, greater clarity. I don't have to prepare much. I just get the gist, and then everything flows from that. So the answer to the question that you asked is one tiny practice. Okay. Of course, there will be other practices that we'll be doing, but catch one tiny practice. And the method I've used is run it through the day, for days and weeks and months has been my simple way of bringing that poise in whatever I do.
So you would say persistence, regularity, discipline, right? Right?
I will say differently.
Okay.
One of the things I've actually suffered a lot is a lack of concentration, right, from my school time. It may appear different, but even from school, I had very poor concentration. 20 minutes was the max I could go. But I was a top ranker. I was a first ranker, and between me and the second ranker, always there'll be huge marks. How did I manage this? It's just a trick, I had a room, and my father bought me some 8 balls, wooden balls. 20 minutes is the max. After that, whether I put persistence or not, nothing went inside my head. So I used to play ball. My mom used to tease, every 20 minutes I hear this tock sound in the room. That was my way of, and I also read up in a memory or a learning book that Your attention spans can be less, but you just have to dive in and take. I've actually followed a different approach. People who know me claim that I'm disciplined, but I'm actually the other way. I'm quite roguish. I go by, my intuition, but I figured out ways of these tiny things, so even at work, I concentrate a little bit. I normally keep about 8 things open. People call multitasking is bad. I have survived only by multitasking, but I do one thing at a time. I do something, and then I find my attention wavering. I move to the next. But I've always been a believer in timelines. For example, if something has to be given at 4 p.m., I deliver it by 3:50 p.m. That I've been very strict. It is by honoring the time, which to me is another dimension of God, that I figured out to work with my limitations. And actually, that same limitations have turned to me as master strength. So there are a lot of people in today's world who don't have perseverance, who don't have that great willpower, are not so great on forming habits. I think it's not a limitation if you know how to play with that and convert it as a strength.
Very interesting, very interesting. Ram, do you want to jump in here?
Yes. So the first question that I have for you is, even this title, work as sadhana, actually gives a slightly serious connotation of a serious pursuit. Can how can one make this joyful, or how was it for you? Is it joyful, or how do we take this the serious connotation into a joyful adventure?
I'll be truthful. It'll be joyful only when you taste the delight of the practice. Until then, it is just reframings and stuff like that, which really doesn't work. Like I'm a guy who used to, I spoiled my wife after marriage. I took her to the theater every week. I used to go watch 3 movies in the theater. I was that kind of a guy. Okay. And, there are holidays, 2 months, I've seen 50 movies. So I'm just trying to say that there are different phases I've gone through. How is it a guy of that nature, sits and does all these things? Because today I find a great joy in practice, full stop. Whether that delivers some result, whether that takes it forward, it happens. And I'm not really pursuing that. The fact that I can sit and, for example, breath practice was one, but connecting to the substance of the body at work is extraordinarily intoxicating, so to say, because you're anchored. There's a part of the body which feels completely at rest. So when you connect, you taste joy. It's not, so what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing forced here. And if I don't feel like it, then that's great. That's why I don't have any, like the other day in my office, we have these instance cards. Somebody was playing around and they said, everybody pick a card and do 1 month of practice and report to this girl. I said, I'm sorry, I won't do any of that stuff. It's too rigid, So different people are different. There are some people who can follow that very regimen. I can do it also as needed. But the key point in Ram is what you're asking is, you have to taste that joy in the practice. So pick what suits you. There are like about 120 different practices that are available. Lockdown has increased, people coming and contributing to the world. Pick just one, but that one that you pick has to give you joy, and you need to taste it and see it is in the process. There are 2 kinds of joy. There's a joy that happens because I've shifted and there is a result. But there's another joy in the process. The first time I discovered it is in doing exercises. Like I was a guy who didn't exercise till my 27 years of age. And then good fortune, I had 2 friends. This friend of mine, her husband didn't come for the yoga classes. She called me. I went for yoga class in the morning with her. And then another friend of mine, she used to work with a Hindu. So she used to go for another yoga class. So I joined 2 yoga classes on the same day. Okay. And both of them were in love with their bodies, genuinely, not just because they would look good, but every moment of theirs, they used to do it with joy. So by the process of copying both of them, I figured out that you could do exercises joyfully. So the same method is what I've taken, to do these practices. I take what is intuitively telling me that take this and do it. But then I touch the joy of the practice itself. And then you just have fun doing it.
Ram, did you have any follow-up or?
No, you can continue.
Just listening to you, two things came to my mind. One is, of course, what you just described, whether the practice takes you to any result. This is like, again, a very new way of looking at Nishkam karma. That is also an action karma. So I appreciate that and value that very much. And the second thing that you said about the joy, getting to the joy of that practice. And that's exactly, I think, in a way, you are demonstrating through your own inner work and through the harmony that you find between inner and outer work. It's a demonstration of what Mother says, take pleasure in everything you do. And by pleasure, she's not meaning like a transient pleasure, but that joy that you spoke of. So that's such a wonderful, really wonderful to hear that by experiencing that joy, you can continue to approach your work as sadhana. So there is no difference between work and sadhana.
Yes,
But then the question comes, what kind of work? Is this work that has to do with what my own mental preference is, or what I'm good at, what I have been trained to do, or can this be any other kind of work? So, for example, cooking is not something I normally cherish. So how can I connect with that joy doing a work that is not so much of my mental liking or vital liking?
And I think it's a brilliant question. I'll try and hit a midpoint on this. There is, if I remember right, descriptions by the mother where she says, do work disinterestedly. If I'm not mistaken, there's some line like that. People get very confused when they read that. See, for me, this is my personal take. You have to do something which is very deeply resonating to you. Because we're all very simple human beings and we're trying to make our own journeys here. So, for example, if somebody loves photography and it is intrinsically motivating, something touches within them, then as far as they keep in touch with that, something blossoms in them. Like this college I went in Kerala, I forget the name of the city, and there were about 150 students. I was doing a 2-day course. We were just talking about this, finding calling, finding work and all that. One boy stood up and said that, look, I like riding a bicycle. And if I take my bicycle, I don't plan. I give myself 60 minutes, I go and come. And then he said that everybody started laughing. I said, wait, let's listen. And then he said the days when I cycle, I read very well, I finish all the projects, I finish all the assignments, and everything is done. And days when I don't cycle, everything falls apart. Okay. Now, that was extraordinarily insightful. So in general, everybody has some kind of a work, that they resonate to. My personal take is you have to do it either as a profession or as a hobby, at least in the beginning, as part of our growing up. Now, but there is no sacredness to that. So for example, many people take a path of, I'll take the work that gives me more money. Okay. Now, there is nothing to look down on that as well. If, for example, I know that between this and this is going to give me more money, I take it. Now, I didn't follow that route. I created the work that I love, okay, and which is training. And then I also created the work on recruitment so that I can be financially independent. And then I started loving recruitment because every work has a pulse. There is a dharma of any work. There is a pulse of any work. Anything that I do, I want to do it well. So I went to the pulse of recruitment and I started loving it as well. Okay. But today, after about 15 years of spending time a lot on recruitment, today I balance my time and I do these works a little bit more because, there's a unique capacity that I'm having to take it out into the world. So there are two answers. One is definitely do what you love because that will bring certain things out from you, like your potential and gifts. But as far as your main work is concerned, I guess it's a matter of practical choice. For me, I took the courage. My father helped me and I could create, like I worked in companies. It didn't click. It was too short a time that I don't want to mention here. It'll be the bad role modeling, so I'll keep quiet. But I did work and it didn't set for me. So then I created on my own. If you can do that, great. If not, take what is there. And in that, bring qualities that you're working on. So for example, if you're working on a quality of beauty as part of your sadhana, you could be doing data analytics hardcore. It doesn't matter. Keep your desk beautiful. In the data analytics, there's a portion called insight presentation. Now, everybody is going to either use a tool or you're going to use a Canva or you're going to use a PPT. make it interesting, bring an element of beauty. So in that way, you can bring a quality that you're working and cut through from a sadhana back into work. There's a certain integration that happens there. Are you muted? Or
sorry, yes, sorry. Yes, very good observation there. At this point, let me also invite any of our participants if they had any comment or insight or question, reflection to share at this point. Anybody would like to jump in if they have any question for Arul about work as sadhana?
Hey, you could ask me any personal challenge that you have to, I can share on the basis of what I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Shanti. Yes, of course.
Allow me a moment. Just.
Yeah, Narayan, I guess. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Narayan went first. Okay, but I can. Narayan, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay, you can ask. After your question, I will ask.
Okay. So my question is.
Yeah.
My question is this, Arul. So I get it. Like we are trying to do our sadhana along with the work, but what I find is sometimes I get so engrossed in work or so anxious about work that I forget the sadhana. So should I bring myself back into the sadhana again and again? Like, is that what you are mentioning? Like,
yeah, that's a simple method. So for example, right now I'm doing a practice. Now you all would know that what I'm doing. Okay. Today morning, I had a very intense session from 9 to 2 where I taught one person on the substance of the body practice. Now that person is a yoga teacher advanced. So obviously we have spent the time going into the body. My body is still in that practice. Okay. So I'm doing it. You wouldn't know that at all. It is not multitasking. Actually, I'll be more alert. I'll be more centered. Now, it took me a couple of years to get a knack of it. It's not going to just come in like that because, we're not trained for this. So in general, what happens is there's a wrong understanding that when you get into work, you get excited and you put your head over it, which is fine. That is one way of working. But there's another way of working is that you're still involved, but you're rather a little bit neutral. You're not just, popping up here and there with different strokes that are coming in. In work also, people do manipulate quite a bit. We all know that. They say something like this and this, and there are all kinds of stuff that go around the place. So be passionate, but yet if you can hold a certain neutrality as such, then you figure out the knack of, okay, hold the sadhana and do the work. And then when you're entangled and when you're engrossed, and then you remember, you don't have to get into a conversation about why you are not able to do it. You just have to flip back to the practice. Over a couple of years or a couple of months, the knack will form.
Thanks for that.
But you have to get that conviction, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You have to feel that. You have to feel that by doing it, you're different. Your listening is more acute. You feel that you're more centered. You feel that you're able to think more clearly. One of the important things about sadhana is that our cells or our mind has to observe something that's going on well. So, for example, in the body, if a part of the body is, getting to touch something like light or a joy, one of the practices we do is we ask the rest of the cells to observe that. And then they get a cue saying that, okay, we can also do that. So times when something is clicking for yourself, you're doing the sadhana and work is flowing. It's not like those things like you give yourself a pat on the back. It's not really like that. But it is just pausing so that your being observes that, gives you a lot of inner verification and surety that this method works. You have to do that sufficiently so that this catches on inside you. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Narayan. Sorry.
Yes, Narayan, please go ahead. Narayan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so my question is, so before that, I wanted to tell that I'm working in a software company, okay, and so Arul can relate that in software company also there is a very concern for our productivity and deliver in time also. So all these I think all I know, okay, but still I tell that I'm very less energetic or very less motivated to work. I know this is my livelihood, and from this also I am surviving, but still I don't get the urge to work. I do it, but I always keep it delaying, and at the last moment I do. So as my personality also, so I can relate in my school days also, in my study time, this thing also I do, like in study. Okay, so in study also I do it in the last moment and not in the throughout the year. So that is somehow I manage, and I pass that. But now in work session, it should be a very it should be productive. Okay, so my problem is, so how I'm not getting this. I know what is the risk if I lost the job and everything. Okay, and so, and one more thing also. So suppose there are so many people, even my friends also, if they have work, so they lost their sleep, they can't sleep in night. But if I have work, apart from that, means still I can go to a good sleep. I don't know, and I can I say, means I will be scolded out by my boss also, but it should not be like that. So I how can I overcome this?
Okay. So there are multiple questions there. I'll try and answer as best as I can, and if I not, come back to me on that. First of all, I think each one has a rhythm. Okay, like I frankly shared, my rhythm is 20 minutes. Okay, now while I can turn back and say my concentration is enormously good, because I can concentrate on something and I can get the intuitive, knowing deeper stuff inside that. But I've been working with my rhythm. So number one, if you have a rhythm which goes for the last minute and all that stuff, there's nothing wrong honoring it. Let me start with that first. Okay. Because one of the things that people do a lot is they don't customize the practice of the sadhana. They just take what is written in the books, or they just take what somebody is saying and they just put it on themselves. But that's very ineffective. You have to customize the sadhana in a way that it works for you, number one. Number two is, for me, an IT or a software job is a fantastic place to do sadhana. And here I come with my own way of looking at it is, if you want to progress spiritually, my humble take is you have to do your job also very well. This is my personal take. If you don't do your job very well with excellence, I don't think one can progress sufficiently in spirituality. It's just fake. It's a fake, feel-good states that come here and there. True spiritual progress also carries an excellence of work alongside, is my personal understanding. In which case, whether you like it or not, if your hand has touched the work, it has to shine. Now, if you're not able to bring that inside you, then one is not able to work with the different forces that are acting inside us, the like and the dislike, the frustration and the motivation and all that stuff. Now, tackling that is sadhana. Tackling that is inner transformation. So first, there are two almost opposite things I'm saying. First is, go with your rhythm. If it is last minute, then do prepare for that, and you can turn out some great stuff in the last minute as well, number one. But at the same time, I'm giving an opposite poise is, if one needs to approach spirituality or inner growth or anything of that sort, your work has to shine. Now, so you figure out your own methods, and that is your own. The first is to bring the clarity and the will around that and say that this is non-negotiable. The work has to shine out. Now, it is if you bring that intent to say 90 on 100, the methods will follow. You will find your own methods, and then you will bring it with that intensity, and then you'll do it. If you don't have that intensity at 90 on 100, if you have it 20, 30, 40, no matter who gives the method, it can be Arul, it can be Lakshmi, it can be Govind, you will take the method and then you will turn back and say it's not working for you. It's first that intent that one needs to shine. The third question, if I understood correct, is I don't think we should carry stress back to our sleep. I think it's a very ineffective, foolish thing that people are doing. When you cut work and step out of work, you need to know how to flip that button, for example, and that could be incomplete things, that could be stuff that is not resolved. You quickly move into the next, and up or down, I think getting a peaceful sleep is what the boss can also learn, or whomsoever is needed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think what my observation is for this actually, these are the problem which I am facing, and maybe I am not able to present all the problem properly. Okay, what I feel. So I feel that I am more in a tamasic nature of I myself. I think. Okay,
Sure.
because in morning also, in spite of taking full night sleep in morning like 10 or 11 a.m., I feel sleepy. But if I take a 20 or 30 minutes of nap, then after that I will be fully energetic and I can work. But in spite of taking full sleep, it should not be like that, like at 10 or 11 a.m. No, I should not feel like sleepy. And overall, I think I'm a tamasic type of.
I got the
So
question. We'll crisp it so that we give space for the others as well. Yes, there are two things. There's a cousin of my wife. He must be my age, quite leading as an IT professional. No matter which client site he goes, whether it's India or abroad, he sleeps post lunch for 40 minutes, full stop. Okay. Now I find it crazy how he does it. Okay, and he has managed it in client places in the cafeteria, and he has done it all the time. He's a very successful IT person. Okay, so find your way. And number two, you could be tamasic. Well, then that's a property of the body. Then you find your own way of working at it. Comes back to sadhana, comes back to that intention, and yeah, I think these are good inputs for now. Yeah.
Ram, you had something, I guess you wanted to
Yeah,
add?
so because it's a kind of a similar or related question. So now, when some work or project is not moving, or even there is a slight sluggishness in the career, like what Narayan was explaining in detail, the reason can be the tamas also, like what he mentioned, and also there is sometimes it may not be aligned with our calling or what with our passion or liking. So, and there is always a possibility that both are the reasons. So, how do we find that out and move forward?
Yeah, there are two answers here. I think we should not take this thing of finding inner calling way too seriously. It's a trap. Okay. I myself was a big ardent fan of find your inner calling, do that, and all that stuff. And I've also lived my life out of that. But there is a trap in that also, which is it swings you with the over focus on yourself. Okay. And with your own preferences and thought processes and what you feel. With the current generation turning more individualistic, it's a huge trap. Okay. There's another end, which is what the olden people who used to take a profession do. They were in a profession for 50 years. They even took it from their father or or mother, whosoever. But the moment they take it, they went to the pulse of the work. They deep dived into it. Now that is not individual centric. That is work centric. That is work centric. That is pulse centric. Okay. Now the bottom line is if you're clocking few months of sloth and laziness and non-productivity for whatever reason, that creates a stamp on our psyche. It could have been because of a personal struggle. It could have been because I lost my ardor, my zest over the work. Well, great. Do something to find another work. There's no problem. But till that lands up on your plate, it is a certain, here again, now I go back to what Vilu was pointing out, a certain discipline that whether you like it or not, you have to touch, your hand has to have a slight touch of gold on that work. But the current generation has sometimes become a little bit, because they got overly caught up on their individuality, that they miss the other angle of coming from the work pulse, which is a very important aspect as well. So through diving away from your preference, to even what another is saying, or you do it because you committed, you do it because this is what the work demands, is something that you sustain till you figure out more ways of going in accordance to your calling. Never a day should pass by where we move to depression, sloth, and that stuff that our life does not matter. It happens once in a while, but it should be really once in a while.
Excellent, excellent. I really appreciate your saying this so explicitly and so clearly about excellence in work and spiritual progress going hand in hand, going together. Otherwise, I think you mentioned it's a fake spirituality. I really value that kind of thing. And it's not just because we have been, reading and we are into Mother Shri Aurobindo's teachings, but even otherwise, that is the true spiritual progress. And with the last example that you just shared, Arul, about how in the past people would even pick up things that their parents were doing or grandparents. I mean, most of the older business families in India have been, have thrived on that very thing. So, yes, there was some wisdom, some very indigenous wisdom in that thing. And I think you really pointed out very clearly about that was work-centric, anything that we touch. I just wanted to also add here and maybe get your input on this. When you speak about sadhana, as you said that even like right now, you're doing sadhana that nobody would notice, that there is some inner work that you are working on. It can be different for different people, right? I mean, so for example, for me, sometimes when I get too carried away with the intricacies of the work, I just have to like step back, like literally on my chair, sit back and remember the mother, or look at the picture of the mother on my desk, or, open that window where incarnate word is open, open that tab and read something, maybe even a poem of Shri Aurobindo, just to get into that consciousness, so that when I come back 5 minutes later, I remember that it is not for me, not for my ego that I'm doing this. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, that it can be different for different individuals. So when you work with a variety of individuals, now I'm coming to your HR work, in your recruitment and training and things like that. How what kind of practice do you give them? For example, if this question comes up, how do you encourage and how do you motivate them? Because these people are coming from all different backgrounds. So what do you tell them? Do you give examples of some of your practice or others that you know of?
Yes, so to solve that, actually, I've taken the normal path, which is, people love tools when it comes to, people in organizations. So we have created a tool, which is we use the 8 parts of being, which I picked up from the letters of the yoga, and then I simplified it, and we have now a tool, and then we automated the tool. You take it, the report is out in like next second, it is up on your inbox. So we take it even to when we do a retreat and stuff like that. We ask people to go and take the tool ahead. So now people like all this stuff. We have an app, and I'm developing a second app, which is extraordinarily difficult to make, but I'm in the process, which is basically parts of being combining with each other. I'm working out an app on that. But at the same time, certain common things have helped. Like during the lockdown, I was approached by even some of these top MNC banks to do a short session. The natural breath can be taught even in like a 20-minute window. We could even do that practice, and see here, just settle ourselves in. And that has been like, I can't mention a bank, but there was the name of the bank because it comes under confidentiality. But this is one of the leading banks that all of us know in India. They called for a Zoom session, and I think there were about 120 people who were there. I think it was a pure women's thing. And it was an extraordinary hit. They just watch natural breath and be with your body. And I was called by some of those small groups continuously. So I think we need to take some very tiny, simple practices to people. Like the other examples that you gave are fantastic. Like if something is occurring, like open a window which carries a higher potential, and you figure out what is it for you. It can be a flower for you. It can be a poem for you. It can be, by the way, many people scroll their social media, purely for the same reason, except that it has an addictive layer a little bit. But otherwise, it does have a good inspirational layer as well. So we all do this, one way or the other. So my answer to that is two. One is that a certain methodical way helps. Like today, I worked out practices for doing organizational development and culture. I rolled that course out just about, we just completed it 2-3 days back. We had 400 registrations. 200 of them actually did that course, 5 days, 25 minutes. We gave them simple practices to observe the culture. And then when you observe the culture, how do you integrate two opposite qualities that the culture is holding? The problem in today's world is that even though people talk about a lot of self-learning and all that stuff, it's also very confusing because so many things are being thrown out continuously, so many paths, and about 70% of the content are mixed. They come with different colorings and layers. So a beginner who's entering into the path often can get overwhelmed and confused. So one sign of mastery is simplicity. So if we can, as professionals in the field, guiding and all that stuff, long answer to a short question is I've simplified these into very tiny practices which are not suggestive or pure rules. They indicate. So which means that, so for example, development of the senses. If somebody's having a problem on the senses, there is a practice in our tool. It is there in the app also, which says connect to vastness. It says connect to the beauty of nature. Now that is not prescriptive. It is suggestive. Now you will have to find your ways of connecting to the nature, vastness. You will have to find your ways of invoking that beauty. So that way of simplifying, but not being prescriptive or being this is the way, giving enormous room for people to take it and customize it is the method that I've understood here.
I think at some point we may want to know a little bit more about some of the practices you mentioned, but there is one question on chat here. Chidanandji, I think you have a question. Do you want to go ahead and ask yourself?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you brief me about the freelancers sadhana? Happy to know your words.
What is freelance? I have no
freelance.
idea.
See, first out, I'm not working anywhere. So as a freelancer.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
No, yeah. The way you ask this question, I'm like, this is some sophisticated stuff that has emerged, and I have no idea what this means. Okay.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No. What I mean by that is, see, a freelancer, you're calling your shots in a particular way. You have free time and you're taking on some work. It's such an ideal atmosphere to do sadhana. See, boil down sadhana. You have to boil down sadhana. Is it a practice to connect to source? Okay, I'll boil this down a little bit so that it gets clear. Sadhana means practices. Okay, it's a daily sustained practice whatsoever. There can be one sadhana to connect to source, and ideally everybody should be doing at least one sadhana to connect to source. So what are examples of source? A source can be a guru. A source can be a master. A source can be a certain consciousness above the head. A source can be a certain consciousness in the cave of the heart. A source can be a consciousness in the pure depths of the matter. A source can be a consciousness in your natural breath. So there has to be at least one practice that you're doing which connects you to source. Is that clear?
Yeah, but main thing is going to the temple, reading Shri Arul Dev books and Divine Mother books, attending satsangs. I'm doing regularly. Still, I'm not satisfied about myself. That's why I'm asking you. Freelancer sadhana.
No, good. Let's go into this. Okay, there are two things I'm hearing. When you're not satisfied, behind that, there is an aspiration that is guiding you. Okay, now, like what Bilu was pointing before, everybody has to figure out, their own methods. Now, while you may attend satsangs or while you may hear, read and all that stuff, ultimately, it is that inner flame or guidance inside you which is throwing up a dissatisfaction saying, hey, all this is fine, but something is not clicking. Now, if you go into that and ask what exactly it is, maybe it is a particular nature of yours that needs to get transformed, or maybe it is a certain quality that you need to connect. Say, for example, intuition. Can you tell me what is that aspiration that is pointing inside you? What exactly is that dissatisfaction?
Yes, that is why, see, I can reach anywhere. If I want anything, I can go and visit. And more other thing, I'm a bachelor. I'm a lifetime bachelor. That is one more breaking point always.
Why is that a breaking point?
I don't know. Sometimes I want to go to meet friends. That time I'm married man. I can't come alone. And they're telling like that.
So now what I'm hearing is a clouding of the mind, by what others are saying. When somebody is ridiculing you in a particular way or making a commentary, the first question that Bellu asked me, remember that, what is your poise and how are you maintaining that poise? Now, when I'm holding a certain poise, say I'm very clear, let's say, for example, that I want to be a bachelor, for example, and I'm walking it and I get two comments from people very strong. Now, if you get entangled on that, you've got hit. Now, you need to put a sadhana on that aspect of the difficulty that you're facing. Do you understand?
For me, it is not a difficulty because if he's not ready, okay, forget it. I'll
But
go
it
with
is
others.
hitting you, my dear friend.
No, not hitting me, but
Ah.
sometimes some people is asking, I tell them, then I forget him and I'll go others. So same time, see, I'm chanting regularly since couple of years.
Yeah, maybe we
Then also
can.
I'm not able to connect myself to the cosmic path.
Okay,
That is
simple.
what
So simple. Now I got the answer. So the question that you're asking is that in spite of doing all this, I've not connected yet. Correct?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, that's it. Now your that flame has to be lit, whether you're going into the restroom, whether you're whatever work that you're doing in your freelance. I'll tell you very frankly, I connect to the divine more while I'm working than other ways. This is just my personal take. This is just me. Others would have different ways of doing it. But what I'm trying to say is that if that is your aspiration, then to be very frank, I have not read much. Some of the people here would have read far more than me. I have not even completed Savitri once. I read Savitri as I wish and what resonates, and I sit on one page or one paragraph, sometimes for months. So I have followed a very different path. Okay, so now, if that is your calling to connect, then, and you made an earlier observation that you can be anywhere that you want, you have to figure out a way that you are here sitting and listening to me, but a part of your attention is moving into a domain where the divine is there currently or residing. So you need to be present here in your room. You need to be hearing me. And at the same time, a part of your attention should have been able to go either above or in the depth of your heart or somewhere where you concretely feel a quality of the divine. The day you accomplish it, you've solved your problem.
Yeah, but while I'm attending your talks and already my conscious pulse, I'm going to temple around between 6:30 and 7 today already. So already that it calling me.
Please go. But right now, you're not in the temple.
10 hours after going, sitting, reading, chanting, everything.
Chitananda sir, right now you're not in the temple.
Yeah, but my conscious pulse there actually.
That's exactly what I'm trying to point out, that there is a certain degree of entanglement, okay, which means that either you're entangled on the routines or you're entangled on what others are saying. This moment, you're not in the temple. This moment, you are in your room. Yes. Sit in your room, connect to the divine. That has to be your practice. Figure out your ways. 6:30, sit in the temple and do the same.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. But still, I'm in a little confusion. Okay, thanks for your
Thank
words.
you. We will catch some time when life permits us to. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Aparna, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Very nice hearing you, sir, again. My question is, if your seed idea is different from the co-worker's seed idea, the intent is different, but the work assigned is the same. How do you align the differences?
Well, I work in that atmosphere every day for the last 27 years. That's the problem. So in my recruitment business, okay, the people who are running the recruitment and my co-workers, we're about 30 or 35 at this point of time. Now, in the recent year, I see more people coming with some kind of a deeper, aspiration or inspiration. But over the years, we've had all kinds of people. How does it even affect me at all? Okay, if it is a spouse, okay, or if it's a mother or a father, and then if there is a conflict, yes, it has the power of affecting to a certain extent. And we'll talk about that if the questions around that. As far as workplace is concerned, you have your core, and it's the same work. You hold your core, and there are two things we need to learn to do. The work has a pulse and an excellence. Give that. Add your core into it. Now, your core could be it could be beauty, it could be love, it could be power, it could be light. Add that along into the work, along with its work excellence. And there needs to be no alignment in this at all here, actually speaking. The trick is not to align on it consciously from the mind. Then you recognize how things are playing. Then you recognize that, oh my God, I wasn't even aware of this playing out. Okay, who you thought was the person who was completely opposite. Sometimes you'll suddenly find that, this person was carrying something, you couldn't see it. It becomes extraordinarily beautiful when we don't try and align, actually. But two things are important: work excellence. And when you're interacting with others, you're demanding the work excellence. You bring your core. If you're a team manager, where you have the capacity to talk to people and guide them, encourage them to bring their flavor into the work. That's all that we need to do. Everything flows very well. Out of my 27 years of work, 23 or 24 years I've done this well. The rest 3-4 years where I have suffered at work is a time when I did not do this well. It really works like magic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other hands at this point. Let me then ask you this. I think this is from, sorry. Shantu, please go ahead.
No, I wanted some clarity on Aparnaji's answer. So what you are saying is like we should maintain our poise, like just to simplify so that I understood it right. Like no matter what's happening.
Yeah, don't simplify it so that you understand it right. Don't do that actually. Because see, the thing is like, no, that's really not the method. So the thing is, what did I tell her? One is that ensure the work pulse is done at its level. Clear? Okay. You have a core means you have a flavor. Like, for example, I've always been interested in evolution. In recruitment, we do all kinds of stuff. There are different aspects. We're talking to candidates, we're validating. Now, when I talk to candidates, I've always brought this intention of how do I really understand who this guy is? I did sadhana. I practiced. I was trying to find the core of that person. I may have failed 8 times out of 10, but I succeeded 2 times. But it is the aspiration that matters. And slowly the thing comes. So what I did tell her was, whether it is you or the other person, ensure work excellence. Whether it's you or the other person, ensure they bring their flavor into it. Along with the work excellence, I'm repeating this because many of the people get confused. They give an overemphasis on their own styles and preferences, which is not right. You have come to work. Okay, so it is both together. When you do it, it makes sense. Now, you don't have to simplify more than what I've simplified on this. It just has to be explored and you take it to the next level from there.
Yeah, I really hear you this again and again about excellence in work. And that is something, I guess I don't know, maybe it's an Indian trait that also needs to be explored and investigated, that this chalta hai attitude, jugaadu attitude, all this has sort of like taken us away from this pursuit of excellence. And we forgot that, divine is in those details. And whether there is like, how to, whenever we are doing any little thing, how do we place things, place objects on the desk or whatever? It's really important to connect with the divine. I mean, and again, coming from what I have learned from Mother's volumes, reading and, sort of meditating on that, she paid attention to each and every tiny little detail. And so that's really important. So I guess my question, after listening to so many other uh, insights and comments from you, going back to your own work, when you kind of especially meet with younger people, in your HR work, what is that one thing that how do you approach to them this idea that work is not merely a means to fulfill their financial needs, but work itself can be the means to this progress that we are speaking of, this inner progress? Because so often the conditioning has been, get 95%, 98%, get into a good college, get a good degree, and, blah, blah, blah. And then what's your package? So it's the financial thing that always, especially for whatever Gen Z or millennials or whatever from X onwards. So what do you how do you approach this subject with them? That work itself can be a means for inner progress also.
The way I've understood it is unless they taste an aspect of depth, they will just pursue the external, which is some people shift their works because they're going to get married, and in-laws don't feel comfortable where they are, and sometimes it's about the monies and all that stuff. Well, all that can be there. There's no problem. To go behind either the aspect that you're talking about, that work itself, there's something behind it, or even pursuing something with a zest. My understanding has been that the person, the youngster, or even an experienced person, they have to taste depth. They have to taste that quality and the joy of depth. Now, we have to give it to them in some way. And there are 100 ways of doing it. Let's say you notice that the person has a tendency to dress very well, very attractively. Then you can play with that for depth. You just look at the clothes and say, hey, this color combination, maybe it's not so. Maybe if you're friendly, this color combination is not coming in well. And then you say, hey, this color combination, there's something really, it's kind of balancing each other. You've touched depth. So I don't think having, talking about it directly has ever worked. And I definitely stay away from all these things when it comes to a work context. But I do it indirectly, from dress or from, many of them want to do exercises today, and they do it for reasons of they want to look good and stuff like that. Now, then I take that exercise and I ask them what they're doing. Somebody's gymming, somebody's, going to the yoga. I just help them to touch a little bit of mastery around that. Again, you will touch that. So for me, the formula around this has been is if they start tasting, or for example, they're dating somebody. Like the other day, there's a colleague of mine, many years back. She used to date all kinds of people. And then I used to, and we were good friends, beyond work. And I used to tell, and then a few people came to the office the other day, and they were actually good looking men. So I watched her ogling at them. So quietly after they went, I caught her and said, hey, come and sit. Tell me who looked good. And she was like, what? Tell me who you ogled more. So then she said, this person. I said, look, I spent the time with them. The person you pointed out looks good. But the other person whom you didn't watch has all these characteristics. You didn't know it because you went for, these surface externals. And then I said, when you date next time, can you also see a little bit beyond, whether the person is having a mustache or a beard or, So now for me, honestly, I tell you, the person got the message the other day because it was around dating. And that's of extremely good interest for me, and if I sit and talk about, money and all that it's not going to ring a bell at all. So I think I have followed the formula of depth and helping them to give a certain taste of depth. Then naturally they'll hit some balance as per their aspiration and how their practical life allows them to be.
Very good, very good. Let me see here if there's any. I don't see any hands raised. Ram, do you have some questions at this point?
Yes, I have a minor question.
Yeah.
So there is an aspiration to do sadhana and also make work as sadhana, and even beyond. After this month, we have this theme of work and yoga and renaissance. Reading lots of words of Mother and Shri Arul Dev, and also now listening to all this insights and experiences and practices from you. But it is a process. So there will be a natural tendency that tomorrow I feel some work to be like a burden, and then I just want to spend some time with friends or watch a movie or go out or just even sleep. So at the time there is a feeling that okay, I have wasted time, or instead of doing work there is a, I'm doing this useless activity, and there is a it sometimes go to the extent of triggering guilt. So what has been your experience? Have you had such moments, and how did you deal, and what would you suggest for people uh, to deal with this?
Yeah, I think it's very simple. When you go for a movie, do it very well. Go on time. Okay, if you're dating somebody and you're going to smooch the person, smooch very well. Make it really artful. Make it really, delicate. And so the thing is that what I'm trying to point out is everybody has these things. And actually, it is the adult generation who have maximum addictions as well. There are friends of mine, HR heads, they are addicted to this Netflix and all that. They come in the night and they watch for an hour and they go to sleep. These are well married, they have children and they are addicted. It's a very different world. So the guilt is useless as far as I'm concerned. And I think Mother has written about this as well. I think it's a useless emotion. Instead, I would say that, when you date very well. I have boost and I boost very well. Once when I went to the dance floor, I was drinking for 4 hours and I had many fans who were actually boys. They came and said, look, wherever you go, callers will also come. So and I dropped it after a point of time, because what I'm trying to say is that, when you develop that nuance, what is unhealthy drops away. You don't have to bother about it too much. It is the fact that you're neither here nor there. Like when you're flirting, you should flirt fully, and then it's like, it gets done at a certain point, it drops away. But bringing many people who are very sincere, who follow the path, they way too young, they get into all these books and they say, this is vital energy. We should not have too much vital energy. All this stuff, great, fine. But, it has to come naturally. The change has to occur naturally. I'm not propagating excesses. So I'm not even propagating that. I'm propagating something else. You're compelled to do something and you have no choice, then do it very well. But the fact that you're doing it very well, the chances of you coming out are faster than, going into this or the other or the other. All of us have our distractions. I also watch stuff. I have some stuff on my Facebook that once in a while I see. I like movies. There are some action movies that come. Sometimes other stuff come and I just, pull it away, because at this point I'm not interested. It happens by itself. Till such a time, it's that discipline of, see, what helped me is that discipline. I have intensity. Obviously, you can feel that. If you haven't felt that, then I don't know what to say. Obviously, there's intensity that I bring, right? So whatever it is, I brought that intensity, and then things that are not necessary drops away. They drop away on their own. I used to drink, and I never decided to drop. After a point, I noticed that my morning was not fresh. I used to get intuitive. So I noticed if I have a beer and I wake up the next day morning, I noticed my intuition was lost. So slowly, one beer became half a bottle, and then it became a few sips. There I had the discipline. The moment I knew, a few sips and the inclination, I just used to throw it up into the dustbin and I used to walk away. Okay, so go through a natural process, honor the body, honor the senses, but your practices have to be right. So the practice I've used when I used to drink is I used to sit in the bar, and one beer I used to take for 1.5 hours. So obviously, I went at a slow pace. I wasn't gulping. If I gulp, it'll numb my senses. So I hit my practices correct. The practice has to be correct. So I used to call, my wife right now was my best friend at that point of time. So I used to call her and I just used to talk, so that time, and she used to tell me, whatever. So your practice has to be correct when the problem is going on. It's the customizing the practice. So to put it in another way, if the problem is in the senses, the practice has to touch the senses in the right way. Senses has to open up. If your problem is a lack of courage and somebody is very lazy, then you have to feel that force coming through you. Then you have to take a practice that brings the force. Reading books, even if it is of Shri Arul Dev Mother, may not bring you that force necessarily. But if you go play football and 4 people kick you, then you get up to kick them back and you've got back your force. So you're customizing the practice to what is needed is the art, actually. Okay, Zoom user. Who are you?
Yes, there's one hand. Please unmute yourself and ask your question and maybe know your name.
Yeah, myself, Dr. Neelam Mehta Bali. I'm from Rishi Valmiki College of Education, Delhi University.
Okay, wonderful.
See,
Please go ahead.
I'm involved with teacher education program. I'm a teacher educator. And my concern remains that, whenever I try to know my students beyond their behavior, and when we as colleagues discuss things, I find that often that claim that I know this person in and out leads us to becoming judgmental about that person. Wherein then we do not give the person the scope for evolving. I have seen my colleagues judging people on individual behavior, or maybe a pattern, a repetition of the behavior, say 5, 6, 7 times. And then we continue to hold that. I know the core of this person. And then we don't give the scope to that core to evolve. And the other observation is the difference between ambitions and aspirations. I have heard my colleagues who are well trained in Shri Aurobindo's thought. They've been to Pondicherry, they've stayed over there, they come back and they say, well, Neelam, I have been there, I know it. I say, well, you still are mixing ambition and aspiration. So these are two observations that I wanted to put across. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
I'll pick both.
Thank you.
The first one is pretty much spot on. First of all, we need to observe, okay? And there's no second way to it. We need to observe, And as you rightly say, you pick something up and then you mentalize it. The moment you articulate it to somebody else or you mentalize it, you put a label around it and then you actually stop observing and that becomes a problem. You're spot on. Take your own example and take it further of how you would do it. I have solved the problem for myself because it's not forgetfulness, to be honest with you, but I don't remember much. Okay, and I remember only things which are not done. If I have given a word to somebody, and
I hope I'll be able to get the recording later. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So what is not done is all I remember in general. Okay. So when I observe, I would help the person, and then like people in my own office, and then I come the next day. I'm kind of not looking through the lens of what I have known. I kind of directly look at them, okay, and immediately things start popping up. So now you can say that this is difficult, but it is not actually, because exactly in what you're saying, there's a staleness and there is a problem which you have spotted out. You just have to extend your awareness and always keep sensing like that. And a part of your brain will keep a track. It will keep a track that, this person has not shifted and all that stuff. And I can tell you that it's happening with one person. With one person in my office, it is happening. Okay. It is happening by a certain disappointment. And I keep catching myself that, well, the person has also not changed, the same behavior. And my mind also is like, yeah, the person is doing the same behavior. But it's that I'm forcing myself. It's literally I'm forcing myself saying that, but there has to be something. Maybe it is not going to occur in our organization. Maybe in another organization, this person is going to flower. And let me also just keep a little room for that. But it's a little bit difficult because the other person has not shown a single movement, even though pointed at least about 40, 50 times. So I'm giving both ends. But the first one, what I'm saying, observe, direct, I think it is possible and it is fantastic. The other one about ambition and, aspiration, I think you're spot on. I think all of us are many times have faulted it. And please free to kick us on the backside and remind us to get back to our basics. It's happening everywhere, not just in this system, in every system. Human beings are human beings. And the more you progress, the more the pitfalls that are there. It's happening all the time. So luckily, if genuine, well-wishers are there, they'll keep kicking us. I give an example. My father passed on sometime last year, and now I spend a little bit more time with my mom. So they were, cleaning up my house. This is my house where I'm sitting in. I don't like the paint smell, so I stayed in my mom's house for a month. She gave me solid, she said, Dave, and they call me Dave at home. She said, one time, if you said something, we know it is going to occur. Today, I see you a very different person. It's true. For about 3-4 years, I lost my time sense for various reasons. I don't want to get into it, but I lost it. After she said that, I brought it back, and it's a fundamental breakthrough back again, to honor time and bring back that thing. All of us make our errors. Since my mom pointed out, I could, bring it back. We all have to help each other to get back to the basics and live it truthfully.
Yeah, thank you very much. So it's always to be, to be self-aware and to own up that responsibility for every moment in your life.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this and for your question as well, Neelamji. I think, these little nuggets of what I would call wisdom, very lived wisdom that you are sharing, Arul, as we go along, coming from your own experience as an individual, as an aspirant, as a professional. I mean, that's all very, really very, making it very living learning experience for all of us. Okay, Narayan has a comment or a question, and I also have a couple of things after I'm noted down. Narayan, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I have no question, but I wanted to tell Chidanandaji, who asked his question. So what I understand from his question. So my suggestion is that he should not go for any experience. Like if I'm going temple and reading this book and all these things, so I should get this experience or this calmness or peaceness. So instead of that, if they are doing this, so he should do it means with the inner calling. Okay. So with that, maybe he will open to his inner being or anything. So my suggestion is just I don't know whether I can relate his question, but he should not go for any experience, and that if I am doing that, I should get this experience.
Narayan, we'll skip this part because I think we'll leave it to individuals, and you guys can connect offline and take that forward if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So one thing you said about, I think in your response to earlier comment or question about that some people thriving, your observation that this individual may not thrive in one specific organization, but may blossom in another context. So there is something, because work often is part of the collective. So the collective context matters a lot. So in your experience and having been exposed to Mother Shri Aurobindo's works for a while, not just in the theoretical sense, but also as part of like living their teachings, any insights that you would like to share, which you think have an impact on how to build that kind of organizational or work culture, which helps individual blossom and come to their potential? I mean, that's core of your training work as well, right?
Yeah.
So any key insights that you would like us, to?
Yeah. This is the most difficult question you could pose.
Well, that's my job.
No.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, what I've been recently observing, the more evolved the individuals or the more spiritual the organization, the mess they're creating for each other is very high. I'm just being honest from what I've been observing over the last few years. And it's very tricky. This whole thing is very tricky, okay? And I can just say, and I'm putting the answer purely from my observation, it needs at least one individual in that group of 4, 5 people or 6 people or 7 people who's not getting entangled and taking sides. Okay, I've been working on this for long now. Okay, in the first posture of working, I got disentangled, which means I just let the people to mess around each other and sometimes derail the work as well, which was not helping. But neither was my stance of getting entangled and trying to sort this out or the other, where they'll sort out and then they'll go in and get entangled. So one of my fundamental breakthroughs that I'm attempting, I've not finished it yet, this is work in progress, is how that, in these atmospheres where somewhere genuinely they are supporting each other, but their own nuances, their own emotional ups and downs, egoic preferences is derailing them. They know it pretty well, but they're not able to do anything about it. How do I not get entangled, number one? And how do I fully stay connected to the work is the sadhana that I'm doing. It's working very well. But however, I've not reached that point where I'm able to do it fully. Okay. And now I'm in a collective project, a huge collective project where similar stuff is unfolding. So far, I've managed well. So far, at different points where I could have, blown it off myself or for the others, I've done it very well by maintaining these two standards. No entanglement, call out what is right, stay fully connected to the work. Now, I'll want to go a little bit deeper into that. What that actually means is I'm connecting to the, let's say if it is an organization, I'm connecting to the logo of the organization. What it means is I'm connecting to the physical premises. What it means is I'm connecting to the people. It is staying in connected with the work and not getting entangled. Clarity is coming on what needs to be done, and to avoid the rip-off that could happen between each other is what I'm able to accomplish to some extent. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I think I got it. And I think I also find this, what seems like a paradoxical thing or a juxtaposition. I don't know what's the right word here, but staying connected with the organization. I mean, you said about like the premises and everything,
Yes.
Staying connected with the people and yet staying not entangling oneself.
Correct. That is important.
That may be the true definition of that disinterestedness that
Yes.
Mother and Shri Aurobindo speak of.
Yes.
That, yes, because I think even like from what I have seen, and I have worked in various kinds of organizations from academia to nonprofit, but primarily in the academia outside of Pondicherry, I find that there is a lot that is happening around me in the organization. And yet that has no direct bearing on my work. So yes, I need to be aware of that, but not really take too much interest in it. And unknowingly or unconsciously, I developed a practice for many years when I have been asked to attend these long meetings in which I have only 5% stake, if I can use that word. I took to this doodling. I had like all my faculty colleagues became aware of this idea that I was doodling while they were all talking about their projects, which had nothing to do with me. So yes, you still have to be aware, but not entangled. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's...
Yeah, it's your call here. It's your call here, which means that if you're okay with that, that's okay. Okay, but my calling is, as much as I'm doing individual sadhana, there's a calling of mine where I have to transform collectives. My father knew it very well. He kept pushing me. I kept running away because it was too overwhelming all the time for me. Just as he was passing on, just a few days before, he said it very clearly that you will make it on the collective. And it is almost a seeing and not just a, wishing for a son kind of a thing. I can see in the last year that it's unfolding exactly as he said. Okay. So for me, I am interested to shift the collective, and I have been struggling with this for years, exactly getting hit by what you're saying. So for me, I have to be fully involved. If my role permits, I have to guide, but without getting entangled. And people are playing it extremely well. They confuse you. They give, not out of a malice, but just their own way of sharing or whatsoever. And again, the new age world has caught up with this thing that if I feel something emotional, I have to share it fully. For me, I'm like, hey, enough, yeah, you go deal with this. Why am I supposed to sit and so much, hear all the emotional stuff? But it is how it is playing out. Okay. So personally, for me, if I need to be part of the change, I have to get involved. But disentangling means my mind is not getting formed out of what you all are saying. My mind is also not getting formed by what I'm observing. I'm in the moment sensing. You can sense the collective in the moment, just the way you can sense the interiors of your body. It is possible.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, we have a comment from Neelamji here about connecting with the vision and mission and accepting that individuals can address the same according to their own. Yes. Any other question? We still have 10 minutes. If not, then I would like to ask Arul one. Yes, certainly, Neelima ji, yes, I saw your message about the video recording. It is on Facebook Live. So that recording will also be there. And then maybe within a month's time, this recording will also go on Sri Aurobindo Society's YouTube. So we'll share the link, definitely. Yes, there was some comment or question. Ram, yes.
I thought we can have a short practice because that's Arul's forte. So I would like all of us to enjoy that also.
Exactly.
That, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was also thinking of. You mentioned two things about, connecting with the parts of the being and also the breath. So if between the two or both, if you can somehow.
Let's just go with the breath. That is the simplest and it is the most profound from what I know.
Okay. So
yeah, I'll take just about 2-3 minutes, leaving room for a last question if at all it's there. One of the I've pursued. I'm a researcher of practices, if you can call it like that. One of the best practices I've come across over the last 27 years is watching or being with a natural breath. Okay, this is different from pranayama where you're modulating your breathing. Okay, that has a certain benefit, but the one I'm talking about is you don't do anything. You don't change your breathing. It could be shallow, deep, doesn't matter. All you're doing is you're watching your breath, or better still, you're putting your awareness on your breath and you're just going where your breath is going. This is all. So we'll close our eyes for 2 minutes and then we'll do this. If you get distracted, just come back and continue the practice. So kindly close your eyes. Just connect to your body for a brief few seconds. And just bring your awareness to your breath as it is, nothing to change. Either watch it or place your awareness on the breath and then move your awareness wherever the breath is moving. That's it for 2 minutes. As you do it, just observe what quality is there inside you. You're not doing anything. You're not imagining anything. Just for another 30 seconds as you do it, observe what quality is becoming more present inside you. And then slowly let go, ground yourself. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Take your time. And so this practice, I think some of you know, is a master practice. It generally gives you a certain calmness, a certain neutrality. I have practiced this both separately like this. I've also practiced it with eyes open. When I'm talking to somebody and I'm listening, or when I'm on the computer, I've practiced it enormously and it just enters. Okay, we are on the last 4 minutes.
Do you have another short practice that we can do in?
Sure. I'll give you my favorite right now. It's touching a certain density of the body. So I'm not going to explain, I'm just going to give it. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, pardon me. Just close your eyes. And I just want you to just relax your body. Just relax your body in your own sweet way, whatever that is, just relax your body. Which means you're just going a little limp. Just relax. And then I just want you to feel the weight or the density of your body. So if you take a pebble or a stone between your two fingers, and if you relax your hand, you'll feel the weight of the stone on your fingers. Exactly that. The body has a certain weight, which is actually positive. People only see the laziness part of it. But there's a positive component to it. I'll just show the practice you can practice on your own. Just get in touch with the density or weight of the body. And now, just drop your awareness within that density or weight. Just take the density wherever you feel in your body and just go into it, go into it, go into it. Till you feel something which is like a pure weight or a pure substance. It'll have a slightly different quality. Just drop in, drop in, drop in, drop in, till you go to the core of that weight or that part of the body or that cell, and just observe. And if you let go, whatever came is fine. Rest you can practice on your own. Ground yourself. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. This is a practice that will ultimately get in touch with the pure substance. At the first point, it will bring a certain peace in the body itself. So like this, I keep practicing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think both these practices kind of, they're not something that we need to step out of our work context to get into. So these can be very handy tools. Thank you so much for sharing these. And really, thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with us, Arul. And it's been very insightful. And as I said, a very living way to learn from your insights, your experiences, your observations. And I want to also thank everybody who participated and shared their comments, questions, and insights. It's been really delightful to hear from a lot of people here. So stay connected with us through our own social media pages. And thank you, Shantu, particularly, and Narayan, and Chidananji, and Neelamji, and Ram, everybody, for your questions. So I think
Thanks.
we've come to a close of this session right on time. So namaste to everyone and have a pleasant evening and a good Sunday.